everyone. Welcome to the Auburn School Committee meeting for February 11th, 2026. This meeting of the Auburn Town School Committee is being conducted in person and is being recorded by Auburn Cable Television. All are welcome to join us in person at 5 West Street. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on Auburn Public School website. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. Thank you. Can we please rise for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any citizens' comments? Panos, no? All right. The vision of the Auburn Public Schools is to educate and prepare students for the opportunities and challenges of a changing world. Our commitment: we will create, maintain, and support an environment that fosters a sense of belonging for all students in our schools, respecting race, color, sex, religion, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, homelessness, poverty, spoken language, and ability. We have special recognitions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we do have a special recognition tonight. We have Panos Paneros, who has joined us this evening. We are going to take a minute, play a short video. He was a WCVB, got the high five, student high five. We're very proud of him. And then once we watch that, maybe he can come up and just say a word and take any questions.
From the band room to the classroom, behind the scenes at school musicals, to the front lines of emergency response at games, Panayotis Paneros, known to most as Panos, can be seen just about everywhere at Auburn High School. And while he loves music, playing drums in concert and marching bands, DJing school assemblies and dances, and stage managing school musicals, his biggest passion is for saving lives.
So I'm definitely into the healthcare field. I love helping people. There's nothing quite like it, and there's such a need for it, especially now. It's the only thing that I could see myself doing.
That motivated Panos to undergo rigorous training to become a certified EMT as soon as he turned 18.
I would wake up wicked early and then do all my schoolwork for the day, go to school, do as much as I could, and then leaving school, I would turn my brain to, EMT academics. So it goes from doing calculus to counting how many times people are breathing a minute.
Once he was certified, he could volunteer on the sidelines at games and with the Auburn Fire Department.
I was doing 12-hour days. I was doing, I was trying to get 24-hour shifts as well, volunteering. There was a lot of stuff that I was doing.
And as he wraps up senior year, he'll be interning full-time.
I'll be showing up here at 7 a.m. every single day like everybody else, doing my math, and then after that bell rings, I'll go to the fire station, check in with my supervisors, get my gear on the ambulance, and work.
That work ethic already paying off. Panos has been accepted to Holy Cross, where he wants to go pre-med, hoping to one day become an ER doctor.
He could do anything he wants in life. So if he wanted to be a professional musician, he has the work ethic to do that. The fact that he wants to go into medicine and is working as an EMT right now just shows that he has just such a kind heart. He's a servant leader. He just wants to give back to his community all the time.
For everything you do, and most of all, for wanting to help so many people. Panos Paneros, you get this.
In Auburn, Antoinette Antonio, WCVB News Center 5.
Yeah. Would you like to come up?
Sure. Right here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great.
Okay, cool.
So can you tell us a little bit about this? And
Sure. So it's an honor to be up here in front of all of you. I thank you for the privilege. A little bit about the interview and stuff like that. It was really cool being on TV. I haven't ever had that experience, and it was really cool seeing how, the real life aspect goes into stuff that I watch. I watch the news a lot, and it was really cool seeing how it went through. In terms of the support, it has been overwhelming. Like everyone coming up and saying, good job, and, people from Holy Cross reaching out. It's been amazing. And honestly, I'm just doing what I've been taught by my teachers and my parents and the morals that I kind of grew up around. This is everything that I feel like I should be doing. So it's really nice to see all the recognition from it, you know. And someone asked when I sleep. I do sleep. It's just the secret is good time management, good time budgeting. Definitely. But this has been an amazing experience, and I truly feel like stuff like this should happen a lot more, the recognition, because this has been truly amazing for me, but also everyone in the community, I feel like, has benefited from this, you know, the whole media aspect of it all and the publicity.
It's great.
Is there any questions?
Chair, if I could just make, I would love to make a comment. The recognition is very well deserved.
Thank you very much.
Remember when you were in kindergarten. So you have proven that you have worked very, very hard, and it's really exciting to see.
Thank you very much. It's really a group effort. You know, it takes a village, as they say, and it truly does. It's everyone from the most current teachers to my parents to even just, you know, the way things were growing up and like just the standard, you know, this is good manners and this is that. Everything I feel like has fallen into line has been a direct influence for the people that have been in my life. So I truly owe it to them.
Yeah, you did a great job, and Mom, good job.
Thank you.
And a good brother. I think I saw you at parent pickup the other day as well.
Yeah, that's every day. Yeah. Anything to help around the house when it's needed. Thank you guys so much.
Honestly, you make us very proud. If you'd come up and shake everyone's hand, we'd appreciate that. Nicely done. Thanks so much for coming. You're off to your next stop.
Congratulations, you're going to do amazing.
Yes.
Next year.
Thank you so much.
Nicely done, Mom. Thank you so, you are free to go. Yes. Thank you so much for coming.
I have a good night. All right. So we have some minutes for approval.
I actually do have one more special recognition. Today, we pause to remember John Doherty, a retired Auburn teacher who passed away on February 8th, 2026, at the age of 84. John was a proud Auburn High School graduate, a U.S. Air Force captain, and a dedicated educator who taught at Auburn Middle School for over 30 years. Even after his retirement, he was a day-to-day substitute until 2003. He was deeply committed to his community, serving as a past commander of the Chester P. Tuttle American Legion Post and holding membership in several local organizations. He remained very active in our Memorial Day assemblies. Above all, John was a devoted family man. He is survived by his children, grandchildren, loving partner, siblings, and extended family. His daughter, Kathy, followed in his footsteps and is a teacher at our middle school. He will be remembered for his service to his country, his dedication to education, his love of sports and the outdoors, and the many lives he touched throughout his years in Auburn and beyond. Please join me in a moment of silence to honor John Doherty. Thank you.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from 12:10, 12:11, 12:12, 1:07, and 1:21, 2006?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from 12:10, 12:11, 12:12, 1:07, and 1:21.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, it looks like we have some student representatives. How are you guys?
Welcome.
All right, it's your turn. So if you could just give us your report of the high school.
Okay, so winter carnival activities have begun.
Sorry, can you just introduce yourself?
Oh,
Is this the
okay.
first time?
Hi, my name is Amalia Bradley Hazard. I'm a junior at Auburn High School.
I'm Eve. I've been here a couple times, but it's been a while because I've had track.
So winter carnival activities have begun. We have had games and competitions going on this week between the classes. We have had an assembly planned on Friday where our class will compete in final competitions to crown the winning grade.
We also have Mr. Auburn tomorrow night. Tickets are on GoPan if you don't have one already. The whole school is really excited for it. Everyone has been working really hard. So.
Our winter athletes have been doing amazing this season. It looks like all of them will be qualifying to states, and they're all doing amazing, and they're all really excited for spring season.
We've also just passed the halfway point of the trimester where students are preparing for their AP exams coming up in May. So they've been taking mock exams And everyone's really excited for next week for vacation.
It's great.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much for coming. You're more than welcome to stay, but if you'd like to go, that's okay too.
Thank you for coming. Good to see you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, superintendent's report, student spotlight.
Yes, this evening we have Allie Hanscom here with Mr. Carlson from Auburn Middle School to talk about Project 351. We'll have them come up to the podium. Welcome. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you for having us very much. So tonight, it's my honor to introduce Allison Hanscom, or Allie. She's our Auburn Middle School's Project 351 ambassador for this year. So for those of you who don't know, it's a statewide youth leadership program that brings together 8th grade students from all 351 middle schools in every city and town in Massachusetts. The major part of the program is the annual Day of Service, which takes place on Martin Luther King Junior Day. This week it was on the Saturday before, so they could observe the holiday. But it's for his lifelong commitment to service of others. But Allison was nominated by her teachers because she's not only an outstanding student, but also the kind of person that consistently brings out the best in others. She's a positive presence in our school. She shows empathy, integrity, and a genuine willingness to help wherever she can. She's actually a tremendous student athlete as well, constantly leading scoring in our basketball games. She represents Auburn Middle School with both pride in the classroom and beyond, and her character, leadership, and quiet confidence make her an excellent representative of our school. She was nominated by Miss Christine Robbins, who is retiring this year, and she, as soon as she said her name, every teacher jumped on board and said that's our representative this year. So that's kind of her sponsor. So I brought Allie in here today to talk about her experience in Boston, which from what I understand was amazing. So yeah, after you. So why don't you start by just telling us about your day on Saturday?
Hi, thank you so much for having me today. My experience in Boston was truly like a day like no other experience will ever be like. We started the day off going to Faneuil Hall, and where I met so many people and so many different amazing people talked, and I got to hear everyone's perspective on the whole day. And from there we went to different service places in Boston and near Boston. So I personally, me and my team, we went to a local service organization called La Collaborativa in Chelsea, where they do a lot of different things there. Actually, they have a food pantry, they can be a homeless shelter, they have kitchens open 24/7. It's just a really amazing organization. And so I had the chance to volunteer there for a few hours, and we did so many things. We organized clothes from a clothing drive. We actually handed out food to people and interacted with them for the people who are getting food from the food pantry. We made over 2,000 hygiene kits for anyone in need, and it was just a really amazing overall experience. And then we went back to JFK Library at the end of the day, where we got to hear all the other ambassadors' perspective on the day and how much that impacted them, and it was just really amazing.
And so Allie tells me that the relationships that she made with some of these students seems to be like a lifelong thing. Plus, we've had our ambassadors from the high school, our former ambassadors have reached out because it's really a unique group of people. So it's amazing. Now, how about the service project that we're going to be bringing back?
So the spring service project this year that I will be leading at Auburn Middle School is a Cradles to Crayons clothing drive. So children's clothing, like toddlers, babies, children's clothing is what we're collecting. And what really motivated me and inspired me to lead this project because of what we did at launch day, because it was just really impactful to me seeing how many people we helped. I think we helped over 25,000 people in just a few hours. So I can't wait to see how much we can do as a community coming together to see how many people we can help in 2 weeks.
So that's it. Did you have any questions or?
No, any questions from the committee?
through the chair, just a comment. It's no easy task to set something up like this, so good for you.
Thank
That's a
you.
lot of work.
Thank you.
Through the chair, if I may. So, Allie, you mentioned going to Faneuil Hall originally. Did you have a choice into what service you wound up going to, or were you just assigned to that?
We were assigned to that. We were assigned service teams where it was probably like 9 of us per service team, and they split us up. So each team went to a different spot, and like multiple teams went to. So yeah.
Thanks.
Amazing.
Yeah, through the chair. So I'm not going to lie, I feel a little bit like a proud mom myself. Allie was one of my students at Bryn Mawr School. So it's really, you make the Auburn Public Schools really proud.
Thank you so much.
And I want you to know that it makes me proud to know that there are young women like you out representing all of us, because you really are our ambassador. So thank you for that. I also want to say that I think we can see in your eyes the impact that this had on you. And it brings me back to my youth, when things inspire you, and it can set you on a course and a journey. And I'm excited to see where you will land, because I can see a fire in you and an excitement that is really remarkable. And thank you for committing to this, and thank you for all that you do for the school now. And when you're ready to get information out, send it along, and I will send it out to the community for you to kind of get that out there. But yeah, thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much. We should have more information on the service project very soon.
Great.
And through the chair, I know that you can continue doing this as you get up into when you leave Auburn Middle and go up to high school. So I hope that continues as well, because I know that it continues up until through 9th grade, but then you can also continue and be one of the ambassador helpers. So it seems like that's where I think your course might go. So congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
Amazing to think you're that 18-month-old kid in a princess dress that I met years ago. And I will say that her first coach in town for sports was me. So it maybe I
Because of you.
gonna do it.
Yeah. It's you.
So I mean, I think we always knew you were gonna be something amazing, and you're right on that same path. So great job.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. So if you come up and shake our hands, and then you will be free to go as well.
Good job, Allie.
Thanks, Allie. So nice to see you.
Allie, thank you.
Great job. Great job. Nice job, Mom. Thank you. Good night.
Have a great night.
Good to see you. You said citizens comments.
Oh, I did. Yep. Still don't have any. Great. Okay. We're going to move right into teaching and learning.
Oh.
Yeah, so that,
that
because
you
your
guys-
friends are here,
Oh,
right?
yeah, that's
We
nice.
won't make them
Wanna
stay
hang
till
all
the end.
Make them stay.
Okay, so on Friday, January 16th, we had a half-day professional development day. And so I wanted to share with you some updates on what took place that day. As always, our teachers and our staff were engaged in some meaningful discourse and professional development. So I'll start with K to 5, and then Matt and Dan and I will touch on some of the things that were happening at the 6 to 12 level. So K to 5, as you know, we took on a new math textbook this year. And still feel very strongly that we made the right choice in that. iReady has been outstanding in terms of the professional development, working with us, and we have conversations after each time they present to our staff and work with our staff. And so we shaped this professional development together. Basically, what we did this day was helping teachers analyze and respond to student performance. So looking at how they're doing in the classroom on the iReady curriculum, as well as how they're doing in the iReady benchmark assessment system. And so helping teachers make decisions and assign them different materials based on that. The second part of that day with iReady was around building students' mathematical skills through productive struggle. And so we talk about this kind of productive struggle as a place that is right in the kind of sweet spot of where we want to have students. So we don't want them to be in their comfort zone where everything's just really easy, and we don't want them to be in the frustration zone. So in between there, and it's hard to sometimes find that sweet spot, but finding that, making sure that every student feels challenged, but that they're not, that the task is within their immediate reach, but it's attainable. And it's just beyond their immediate reach, but it's attainable. So, and sometimes as teachers, as people that are working with kids, sometimes we want to kind of steal that struggle and help them because we see them struggling a little bit. So it's finding that sweet spot and working with them and making sure that they're constantly working to get to that point. So really great feedback from the teachers on that. Professional development, as well as from the principals at the K-5 level on how that professional development went. So we are continuing that with our next half-day professional development. It's going to be part 2 of that. So then at the 6 to 12 level, we had vertical team meetings. And vertical team meetings is basically just a fancy way of saying that we were meeting and discussing at the grade 6 through 12 level and making sure that our groups of teachers are coming together and having conversations. And sometimes those conversations between schools can be challenging and they have to be framed properly because as a former middle school teacher and administrator, sometimes somebody would say something at the high school level that we would say, make it feel like it's an attack on us and the way we're teaching. And I know that takes place middle school to elementary and so on and so forth. And so Dan, Matt, and I met with the department heads and we crafted the agenda and we worked on really focusing on the things that we want to identify. And so by and large, it was a highly successful day. And we've got really good feedback on how that went. And so ultimately, we kind of shaped the agenda to talk about gaps and overlap. So what are areas that we might be repeating, say from grade 8 to grade 9 that we don't need to? And what are some areas in terms of standards that we're teaching that we might be missing, that 9th grade teachers might assume that 8th grade is teaching and they're not. We also focused on ensuring that there's a smooth transition, and that involves kind of looking at common terminology. An example that came up that I think that Dan will talk about is, we might be saying main idea, but at the high school we're talking topic sentence. So making sure that we're using some common language in that regard, aligning our expectations, and there was a lot of sharing of resources that took place between people saying, I'm struggling with this thing, and then people at the middle school or high school would share resource on what they're doing. So you guys want to step up, and then Dan will get things started with talking about the department. So Dan, Greg Walton, Matt, Jill Clough, and I split up departments on this particular day, and so we were running around to check in with the different departments and offer contributions where we could. So.
Hi, good evening, and thanks for having me. See, I have a little bit of a cold, so I apologize. I'm going to say that I truly embrace vertical teams, and I know what Alan mentioned about such a fancy name for like really strong educational conversations. I feel like we have these conversations for people like Piper and Amaya and Eve and your daughters, so we can make sure that one school knows what the other school is doing, but on top of that, to ensure that the transition is smooth. And so we really appreciate the feedback that we receive from students, but we don't often have the time for me to go or my team to go to the middle school or the middle school to go to the high school. So it's been nice over the last, I'd say 16 months. We've had different types of meetings, and this was the first time that we could bring our full departments together. So I want to tell you a little bit about 4 different departments, and then Matt will tell you about the rest of the departments. So one of the groups that I was able to join in the discussion was with social studies. A big piece of social studies, as you imagine, because it's a humanity, was writing. What does the writing look like in middle school, and what does the writing look like in high school? How do they take notes? What's important? What's not? What does annotation mean to a middle school student, and what does annotation mean for a high school student? I found the conversations to be, I don't want to say riveting and be over dramatic, but I do think they were very, very thoughtful and very engaged. And what was for a group of people that don't often get time together, you could see that the goal was to create a better situation, a better environment for our students. So that was fantastic. Discussion around the major struggles that we're noticing facing current students. Risk aversion. So making students, and we know we grow when we're uncomfortable, right? but students sometimes struggle when they're put in uncomfortable places. So how to get them to take that step? What does that look like going from 6th grade to 7th grade to 8th grade to 9th grade to 10th grade? So there was a lot of conversation around that. Literacy and analysis, general reading and writing proficiency. We certainly, I mentioned notes a minute ago, we don't want them just copying out of a page. That's not really annotating a note and understanding what's there on the page. So how do you get them to how do you get students to understand what's most important? Developing analytical thinking and logical processes, and interpreting and utilizing primary sources. So while some of that sounds like they're big words and maybe 13-year-olds or 12-year-olds might not understand, I think we'd be really surprised to see that they're getting these things, they're being introduced in the middle school, but we're just calling them different things. Also, note-taking and active listening, it circled back, and there was a lot of conversation around what happens in 8th grade in regards to prioritizing active listening over just copying, high school balancing simultaneous note-taking from slides and lectures, and what a couple of the middle school teachers asked, if in a perfect world, what would you expect the students to come to the high school knowing? And that really led to some diverse conversation. So overall, I thought the social studies team had a great, productive first day, and we look forward to more time. The science team, when I went into that room, the conversation had to deal with the heterogeneous classroom and the diverse learners and how to meet the needs of the diverse learners. So this was driven by middle school teachers having conversations where they might have 20 students in a classroom and at various levels. And how do you keep moving through the curriculum while trying to keep everybody up to date? UDL strategies and practices obviously come into mind when you start to think about what those lessons look like. So there was a lot of conversation around that. Overall science skills, what science skills were essential to be taught in the middle school in order to support students. Science is a little bit different because they're like these one-shot classes when you get to the high school. You have biology, then you have chemistry, and then there are different pathways the high school students can take. So those are definite lab science classes. So how can some of the conversation from the middle school team was, what can we do to help? And some of it was helping with claim, evidence, and reasoning framework, which is what we use to do our lab work and when we answer labs. ELA, as Alan mentioned, I think if we could ever master one particular area, it's the creation of a common language. So as our students learn from, and I think the iReady is really going to help us, and then some of the other programs that they've put in place in the elementary schools through the middle school will help the high school, and we can adapt to what they're actually learning. But right now, they're getting, the students are ready for us, but they might not be ready for the vocabulary that we're using. So there was a lot of conversation centered around what's most important and how do we get to that place where in the 7th grade they're using the same language as when they might come up to freshman year. And Alan, being an English teacher, he could dive into a little bit deeper there, but that was a significant part of the conversation. There was also conversation what 3 to 5 skills all freshmen should have, as well as a conversation with high impact reading. What can we do to get the kids reading more frequently? Obviously, we've gotten to a place where kids might not be reading novels or short stories or even poetry on their own. Not that they might have read a lot of poetry on their own, but a lot of it's like short snippets and things they might see from a social media standpoint. So how can we elongate that? How do we create things that are high interest too? So there was conversation around that. Some of that conversation we're able to use as we start to think about going into the high school next year in our program of studies, which that'll be a conversation in a couple weeks. Lastly, they defined, there was a lot of conversation on defining what students in an honors class looks like. If middle school is doing recommendations, how can you tell? Is it somebody just with 100, or what skills should they have mastered or show mastery in, or at least be confident in, so they can be successful to handle the pace, the rigor, and the conversation in class. The last group, special education, and the special education team. There was a pretty complicated or complex conversation around how to best support the small groups of students in both schools, where students might be socially appropriate but might really struggle with the curriculum. So how do we help those students? And I'm sorry that I'm making noise here. So there was a lot of conversation on how we adapt our curriculum, what kind of accommodations can happen for those students. These students might look like students who really, really struggle with reading, writing, maybe basic or lower level math skills, and how to get them comfortable in a classroom. And we want to challenge, but we don't want to put them in a place where they feel like they're not meeting with any kind of success. Additionally, what are the schools doing for providing modifications and accommodations in their inclusion classrooms, and how that looks in the buildings? And then the transition planning. What does that look like? The conversations between our special ed teams in the middle school and high school, and even with our team chairperson. So we make sure that students are properly placed, that students are properly challenged. So those conversations, that took up most of the afternoon, those particular areas. Any questions? I know that was a lot. I apologize. No questions at all? Okay. I guess it's all you.
Thank you very much. So I do have to say, the last time we did anything like this, we've tried over the years, but 2014, my first year, was really the first time that we've really got all the faculty from both the high school and the middle school together. So we've been wanting to do it for years, and we had a plan around 2020, and then things kind of, the world went away. But we're bringing it back now, and we're trying to figure things out, So I had the privilege of going to a few departments myself. I went to foreign language, that's a real big one for us. So we were very lucky in the middle school to be able to have both a Spanish and a French program. So looking at how we can best support those programs, ideally the whole goal is to get to Spanish and French 5 for those students that wish to do that. I believe that's an honors level course. One of the things is, how can we do that over our 3 years with the staffing that we have, and how can we get as many students as possible to be able to choose between those languages? Ideally, the whole idea with the middle school is that they would finish with the first year course of either of those, whether it be Spanish or French. So how can we do that? That's one of those things where we really are working with the department chairs at the high school to kind of calibrate what we're teaching, to making sure that we are getting those things so that they can get right off the ground running freshman year into Spanish and French too. So it was a great conversation. We have some great educators down there that are willing to put the work in, and just to make sure that we're adapting to what the high school needs. There was a guidance department. So the guidance department that's something that they actually do pretty frequently. We have a great relationship with the guidance department at the high school, but one of the strategic plan goals is those transitions between the middle school and the high school. And I think we all agree that we can tighten up in some areas. As far as helping the programming at the high school, what's going to be offered freshman year, the students that are going off the Bay Path and prep school and the private school, what are those rosters going to look like as they come up? And basically working on transition planning for 504s, and the IEPs as well. But how are we doing that? We want the high school to be coming down. The guidance department is going to be coming down, and they do come down often, but they're going to be putting on a presentation for our 8th grade students to talk about what it looks like at the high school. They're going to talk to our teachers about how they're going to put the proper recommendations in Power School, and what those prerequisites are as far as making those recommendations, just to make sure that we start everybody off on the right track when they make that transition. So it's a very strong department in general, but as always, you can tighten up in every area. And then I think the biggest one that we had is the math department. So the math is always been, as a former math teacher myself, I always look into planning from the top down, saying where do we need to go we want the calculus AP to be offered to as many students as possible as a senior, right? So how do we plan backwards, and what can we do to support that so that every single kid that wants to has that potential to get into that coursework? We talked about making the recommendations going forward to the high school. We talked about Algebra 2, philosophy around, geometry, Algebra 2. It was very, it was an awesome conversation. I'm sure it was riveting for most other people, but it was really nice to know like what the work expectation is at the high school so that we can kind of mirror that. Years ago, we really bought into this flipped classroom philosophy, and it was kind of, let's do the work in the school and then kind of learn it at home on your own. And so we've kind of fell into that trap of doing a lot of stuff inside of school, which is nice. But at the high school, there's a little bit more expectation that you're going to do a little bit more on your own. And so we kind of self-reflected and realized that we can probably do a little bit more to prepare our 8th graders for the rigor of the high school. And the teachers are more than willing to. It's just kind of one of those things we just kind of needed a kick to kind of get going and realize, we could do a little bit better, which was awesome. I thought the math people really got along well. Knowing what those expectations were is very helpful as far as what we do, and we're not that far off. It's just some of the things that we have to do. Making the recommendations as far as using the iReady curriculum, we're going to use a lot of that along with teacher recommendation, which we kind of gotten away from teacher recommendation in years past. We had used course grades, MCAS scores, iReady, but knowing now what the high school needs to see as freshmen, our teachers feel very comfortable making those recommendations. And we talked about how we're always leaving that loophole open for everybody to be able to get to that next level. So I thought that was really nice. And I would have to say that's pretty much it for us as far as that goes. So
yeah, and I'll just add, I attended wellness as well, and so you've heard me say before, we had new standards that were released in health and physical education, and so we're continuing to have those conversations at the 6 through 12 as well as the K to 12 level. So we had those same conversations, talking about common terminology across grades, across schools, aligning expectations, and then also delving into health textbooks and resources. That's an area that needs to be updated pretty significantly. So we're having those conversations. So I'll just say Matt used the word privilege, and as a former middle school principal myself, there's a lot of things that come to those guys that aren't around curriculum and instruction. But it was a privilege to be able to do this, and those are 2 outstanding instructional leaders, and it was a great moment and a time that we are planning on having a lot more of those moments. We already talked about instituting these vertical meetings at several half days next year to make sure that we can do that, and it's like every year of a student's life is kind of like a chapter, and there's great chapters along the way. And we want to make sure that we're actually telling a pre-K to 12 story. And that's what these vertical meetings are designed to do, is to make sure that those chapters all kind of flow together. And so this was a great first step in quite some time. So, yeah. Thank you.
To the chair as a teacher, and a parent, the vertical alignment, you can already kind of see it. But now I think we're just kind of cementing it in. But as a teacher, it's nice because sometimes you get kids that are like, we learned that last year. And you're like, no, that's my curriculum, So it's good to have those conversations. So.
Nicely done.
Yeah.
oh, yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty sure Dan, same thing. Everybody wants to do it more. Yeah. They just said more. It's like the one, most of the time it's like, thanks for the PD. I'll see you Monday. But they were like, let's have more. And so that's awesome. And
what I think was refreshing was just the open reflection in the room, the willingness to say, hey, that's a good idea. I might want to try that. And people weren't closed-minded at all. So it's people putting students first. And that's what you want, and that's the expectation, and that's really what I think happened. And the fact that, my group said the same thing. They would love to have further conversations, and they found great need in that. So I guess it's all good stuff.
And the nice thing is you're getting a whole lot of very educated people who know what they're talking about in one room to really have that conversation, and they know what each other is going through. Mm-hmm. So there's tools that someone might have in their wheelhouse that they don't see each other all the time. So they're at the high school, it's a completely different building, and then they say, oh, I tried this, and they're like, oh my God, I never thought of that. So it's really nice to bring those groups together.
And I think the passion too, they're very passionate about their subjects. And so when you get all those people together, it really is, it's a pretty cool experience. I thank Alan for bringing us all together, and it was amazing. So.
That was easy.
Nicely done.
Thank you so much for coming. Feel free to stay if you'd like, or go home.
You may go.
All right, we'll
Thanks,
move right
guys.
into night. Bye. Have a good night.
Thank
Of course,
you.
anytime. Well, not anytime. Let's not
Thank
make
you.
it daily.
Yeah, no, yeah, not anytime.
Unfinished business.
All right, so starting off with just a brief update on the FY27 draft budget. We are slated to present to the Auburn Select Board on either the 17th of February or the 23rd, waiting for confirmation on that date from town administration. We did have a preliminary conversation with town leadership, which we normally do. And as you know, the budget that we presented came in at a 4.19% increase. That includes primarily not filling 6 positions, even though some are otherwise, but for the most part, down 6 positions for next year, which I think is a real commitment to demonstrating that we understand the financial situation of the town, and that we know that this year's budget is going to be a struggle. We were also asked to just take a look at, in the event that we were asked to cut an additional $100,000 from the budget, how would that happen? Mrs. Stanek and I have been working on looking at discretionary funding versus non-discretionary funding. The vast majority, 98.2%, 97.8%, something like that, is non-discretionary. It's tied to personnel contracts. It's tied to maintenance contracts. It's tied to software contracts. That would all be considered non-discretionary. So we don't have a lot of leeway. In addition to that, our discretionary spending over the last 4 years has not changed at all. We have level funded nearly everything. For instance, classroom supplies. We have not increased that. So when you do that for 4 years, that's in essence a cut, because prices go up. So that's something else that has to be factored into that. So if in the event, whether it's Select Board or Finance, would ask us to make such a cut, obviously that would come back before the committee for discussion. In my mind, I can't see it impacting anything other than personnel in some way, because that is the vast majority of our budget. I don't know if that's going to be the case, right? But something that I think we need to prepare for. So at our next meeting, which will be, I think, March 4th, I'll have a better understanding, because by then I will have met with the Select Board. Finance won't come, I think, till more like early April. And that could be where that's asked. I don't know. But I just wanted to give you all a heads up before it gets presented at a Select Board meeting. But we will be talking about those things. In large part, the presentation will be the same that we gave here, other than the addition of those things where it looks at discretionary versus non-discretionary, and to talk about the impact that a decrease in the budget by $100,000 would have on us, which I think would be very difficult to manage. Very difficult. And do I have a good answer with what that would be tonight? I don't, because I think it would be really hard. So I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Through the chair, will you just let us know what date it is?
I will. I just haven't, it hasn't been confirmed.
Yeah, as soon as it's confirmed.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
And if there's anything we can do, if you
Yeah.
want us to come for support,
Okay.
whatever, let us know.
Please let us know.
Happy to go. Yep.
Okay. Back to student activity accounts. Mrs. Stanek will be joining in with me on this. We continue to have meetings with the leaders of each of the sub-accounts at Auburn High School. The meetings have been very collegial, amicable, and I think very fruitful in really leading us to having a very solid understanding of exactly what each sub-account should have and does have. So in your packet, and Mrs. Stanek, I'm going to kind of let you take over as we talk through each sub-account. You'll see we created an account balance verification form, so at the end of the meeting, when we get to that point, once everyone agrees on what the balance in that account should be, based on all transactions going back to 2019, understanding that the carry forward balance in 2019 is not verified. We have balances, we don't know if they're accurate or not. This is where we sit at this point. So, I don't know to what degree you want to go through each of these things. I'll let Ms. Santa kind of start to say what we found. In some places, we find variances, and others we have not, and we've come to an easy agreement. So, it has been a good process to go through. So, okay, Mrs. Stanek.
All right, so I've updated the audit review meetings. As of the posting, we had all of our meetings scheduled. And then, of course, if you see attendees, those meetings had happened. We do have one that we needed to reschedule due to yesterday. But other than that, every other meeting has happened at least. We have met with each of them at least once. So then if we have a verified balance, I've added that to the checkbox here. The one that is in gray was the sub-account that came to you at the last meeting. So each time you've seen them, I will gray them out so that you know we have reviewed those. And then if there's any follow-up meetings as well. So the first one you have in your packet is the class of 2028. And the exciting thing is they had started, with a zero balance, which makes it very easy to do that. All of their transactions were accounted for. There was no variance, so we were able to sign off on that.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, may I?
Yes.
Through the chair, may I say something? I just want to make sure the people at home understand that these are signed by the club advisor, the building principal, the student activity treasurer, and the business manager, and the superintendent. I think it's important that people know that it wasn't just you doing this. Everyone was involved.
Thank you. And at times there was also a union representative, depending on the meeting,
An
if they had
AEA,
asked, an AEA member.
Awesome.
So yes, thank you. So that class of 2028 has been signed off by all of those members.
And once it's signed, that means it's agreed upon.
That balance to end FY25 is the agreed upon balance.
Perfect. So like so people watching know that balance has been agreed upon.
For that sub-account of the Auburn High School student activities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. No, please stop me because I am doing this on a regular basis. So I may say things that I understand, but please stop and correct me. So then we go to the class of 2029, and they actually are new this year because those are your freshmen. So we had, you're going to see a different, obviously they were not spreadsheets. This is the new spreadsheet that was implemented this year, which is actually a checkbook register, which was, in talking to the auditor, was the way to go. Excel spreadsheet, and this actually does all of the withdrawals and deposits. It has it all set up. So hopefully there will be no formula errors that we had found in that Google Sheets. And Excel is recommended for accounting. Perfect. So we had verified their balance up until the day January 6th of 2026, and I had circled their ending balance. There was one other transaction, but that has not cleared and been reconciled. So we all agreed that on 1/6/26, they had $2,150. Again, all the club advisors, principal, treasurer, and business manager. The next club was Drama Club. Drama Club does have a lot of transactions. So there were variances in different places. So again, on the left-hand side, those are the original spreadsheets that the high school had, and on the right-hand side is my audit findings and any variances. So we start in 2019 and 20. Again, that beginning balance is not verified, so there is some wiggle room there, I would say, that we cannot verify at this time. And this was the year that we discussed with the auditor to go back to. And here, all of the ones that were on the spreadsheet were verified. However, there were 2 other transactions that happened that were missed being recorded on the spreadsheet, which gave a total variance of that $420. So we have a true balance here of $10,240.85. The ending balance, true balance of that year, is carried forward to be the beginning balance for the next school year. This is the 2020 to 2021 school year. We accounted for all of the transactions here, so there are no variances. So we take that true balance and we move that to our beginning balance. And then in this school year, in 21-22, we had a few things that have been highlighted. So there was a requisition that was put in at one point for Home Depot, but that never happened. So that was a variance. They received that $260.32 back. That requisition was closed and not utilized. And then we had a difference of the deposit. The deposit was actually for more money, so we added that in, the $168. There was also a missing deposit that had not been recorded that we have added in as well. And then on the next page, this year continues, there was a duplicate entry. So they had withdrawn the $872.40 in fiscal year 23. So we have to give them that back because it was only one withdrawal. Again, there were transactions that did not take place. So there was a refund that they had gotten from Music International. This was, still from those COVID times and things. So we gave them their refund back. And then at times the drama also utilizes the music revolving account. So there was a transfer that had taken place into music revolving that had not been accounted for. So there was a total variance this year of $2,939.26 to the positive. And that made their true balance $9,730.90 to end that year. That brings us to the 22-23 school year. Here, there was a missing withdrawal to Music International, one of the deposits for one of the shows that did not get recorded, which was $2,485. And then we also had a difference of a invoice that came in. The invoice was a difference of $16.50. So that is recorded there. That continues on to the next page. And then the next page, there was a big reimbursement that had occurred for all of the things they use for drama, the makeup, the Home Depot, all of the supplies they do. And that was for $4,587.95. So this year, the total variance was $7,089.45 that was missed being recorded on those sheets. So that brings the true balance to $9,194.50. That carries us forward to the 23-24 school year. And then the first one, there was no variance there. What had happened was they grouped 2 invoices, and I just noted that. So as we go back in through our records, I just needed to make sure that I knew that those 2 invoices matched their groupings. If you move down to the first one that's highlighted in yellow, this one was actually paying for the site manager for the fall musical, and it incorrectly was put into the deposit column. So we have to take that out twice because we have to then say, no, it wasn't a deposit, and it's actually a withdrawal. So it does feel like it does hit it twice. Does that make sense to everyone? Yep. Okay. And then there was another variance. This one was to the positive. One particular musician did not follow through with the paperwork and chose to do it to volunteer, and that happens at times. That goes through to the next page. And then there were 2 additional invoices that were paid to the professional sound company that is utilized. Those are now included here, one for $398, one for $1,800. Additionally, there was site managers and custodial support that was not recorded, so we added those at the bottom, as well as another invoice to Music International. So there was a total variance of $2,874.91 that was not accounted for. So that brings their true balance to $1,989.90 to start last school year. So then we move on to the next school year, which was last school year. We do have a musician that was not paid. Again, sometimes they do them for a volunteer or did not put his paperwork through, so that's $375 that they get back. And the backdrop order, that was actually a duplicate entry. It was the very first entry you can see this year, so they received that $925 back because it was only one invoice. This carries us to the second page. So the total variance was $1,300 in their favor. And so the true balance that ends fiscal year 25 was $1,315.99. And Mrs. Bailey did agree that all of those variances were in line with what had happened with the drama club. And everybody has signed off on that. There was union representation at this. Yeah. The next club is Renaissance. Renaissance had no variances in any of the years. They had started with $115.43 prior to July 1st of 2019. And what ended up happening as we dug into the history, Renaissance has now evolved into
Rocket of the Week.
Rocket of the Week. So they used their $115.43 in fiscal year 22. So we met with the Rocket of the Week advisors and they said, yes, Renaissance moved to Rocket of the Week. So the Renaissance piece was at 0 and we verified that with them.
So that's no longer a club.
It's renamed.
The name Renaissance is no longer a club. It is now Rocket
Same
of
thing,
the Week.
just a
Same
different
thing,
name.
different name.
Yeah. Okay.
The next one would be Student Council. Again, for that first year, that prior to July 1st of 2019, that beginning balance is not verified, but everything else, all the transactions in that year were verified, and the true balance was $3,221.36. We carry that forward the next school year. There are no variances. Everything was accounted for. They ended with $3,061.36. We moved to 21-22. There was a withdrawal that is not accounted for, so they do receive that $25 variance. So again, they're back to the $3,061.36. 22-23, all transactions are accounted for. The true balance, $3,527.71. 23-24, we do have some variances. There was an incorrect deposit amount, so we added the $140 that was missing, and then what had happened was this $204.38, that was actually an invoice that we needed to pay to Creative Prints. So again, it was not a deposit, it was a withdrawal. So it has to be done twice. And there was also another invoice for the, and forgive me, the CDMASC that they belong to.
Okay.
So that invoice, they take in the deposit, as you can see, but then they also have to pay that invoice. So there was a total variance of $503.76, bringing the true balance to $3,126.47. Last school year, all of the transactions are accounted for, and their true balance at the end of last school year was $198.52. Agreed upon by the advisors. And the last one to review this for this meeting is Tri-M. And Tri-M is actually a new student activity club that was started last year. So they started with a zero balance, and they had a fundraiser for made $324. So we didn't hold a meeting with them. They were comfortable signing off on that was the very verified balance. Any questions, concerns?
If I may, through the chair, I just want to say, again, you had a meeting. It was signed by the advisors, the principal, the activity treasurer, the business manager, and the superintendent.
Yes.
So everyone who's listening, I want them to hear that.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's very thorough. Thank you.
And I will just say, there have been a couple of questions where someone says, I think maybe that invoice was this amount, not this amount. So they've gone back, they've gotten their information, Jen's gone back, checked her information, and we've come to agreement. So it's been a completely open, collaborative process with each of the groups that we've met with. And we had a number of meetings again this week. We just couldn't get them into this agenda for tonight. But it really, it's been a painful process for Jen and her team going back through all of this. But at the end of it, I do think everyone should feel very confident. And this year, as we've discussed before, every month the treasurer is now giving each of these groups, once they reconcile a month, they get an updated spreadsheet to say, this is what happened in the last month. So there's not going to be any more waiting a couple of years till someone else is really putting eyes on it. They're being given this every single month to say, if you see anything that isn't right, speak now, right? While things are current and everybody's aware of what's going on. And everyone has been very appreciative of getting those monthly statements from the treasurer as well. So, and we do remind them too that before the start of the next school year, they'll be asked to again sign off to say, this is your balance starting the next school year. This is what you have. So that everybody, again, starts off from the same page. So it really should eliminate long-term discrepancies or questions about what happened. So a lot of good things in place.
I think this is really good open dialogue and transparency. So we're all aware of where we are, where we start, where we end.
Thank you so much for all your hard work.
Yes, thank
It
you.
doesn't look fun, so.
I'm dizzy just looking at it.
Let me tell you, you got to like details for this. You have to like details.
A lot of spreadsheets.
A lot of spreadsheets.
I truly wonder if you dream in math because, you must fall asleep and see these numbers floating by.
And then the last update in regards to student activities was last time I had provided you with the policy and procedure manual. And one of the things that was not included was the updated JJF student activity policy. We had updated that in the fall, and it will be included moving forward. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have regarding the manual, if anybody had any.
And this is currently in the manual now.
It has been shared with everybody, but the manual was updated July of 2025, and then this came to you in the fall. And you also have, next on the agenda is another one of the policies that's part of student activities. So once those are both done, they will be added.
Great.
But we typically update the manual once a year. Anytime a school committee policy is updated, they're sent out
as an
and
addendum.
shared.
Awesome.
as-
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
So the next item is the policy JJE, again related to student fundraising activities. This is the third read. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Nope.
If we're prepared to have a vote.
And still no changes from when you sent it out to staff. They all seemed okay with this.
Correct.
Awesome.
As I mentioned, there was the one that does a raffle as a fun. Yeah, that was the only thing, but that can be worked around.
Great. All right. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve to approve the updates made to policy JJE as presented by the superintendent.
And I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Great.
Just a reminder, bus applications are open. As of today, we have about 255 families who have enrolled, so that's a great thing. I did include the pay schedule in this packet in case anybody is interested in looking. It is posted, it has been sent out, it was in my notice as well. The sooner folks pay, right, the less they have to pay. So we're hoping to get a vast majority of our families to register for busing by May 1st of 2026, but don't hesitate. The time is right to do it now.
Excellent.
So moving on to new business, the high school program of studies will be on the next agenda.
Okay.
So we've tabled that. I did want to point out, as I think many have heard, that Auburn is facilitating a very large celebration for the Goddard Centennial of the rocket launch. The big event will take place on March 16th, but I included in the agenda a number of things that are happening. So during the week of March 9th through the 13th, students in each of our schools will be doing some activities related to Robert Goddard, obviously age appropriate. The library is going to be having a scavenger hunt for a couple of weeks leading up to that weekend. There'll be more information coming out about that. On Friday, March 13th, the Ecotarium is having a free reception and planetarium show that you do have to get tickets for that, but it is free. Cool. So, because they can only accommodate so many people. Saturday, March 14th, there will be activities, a craft fair, food trucks at Goddard Park near the Drury Square Fire Station. We're going to have some staff there doing some activities for kids as well. We're in the process of selecting 2 students to each read a passage from Robert Goddard's journal at the town event being held on Monday, March 16th at the golf course. The school chorus is also going to sing a song about Robert Goddard. And we're waiting for more information. They are slated to start the Million Penny Drive, the Friends of the Goddard Centennial, with funds to be used toward a National Space Trail marker. The National Space Trail is a virtual and physical road map or tour of sites around the United States where they were instrumental in the history and continuing quest of science inspiration, education, and space exploration. So that'd be a pretty cool thing. But it does cost some money. I don't remember quite the cost of it, but that's what they would use those funds for. So more to be coming on that. And many of the kids in our schools are also participating in a poster contest right now, which will wrap up at the end of this week. So watch. I have a thing on my my Some More communication that goes out every week with a link to their site. They've been updating activities. There's a very actively engaged committee working on all of this, and I suspect it's going to be a great event for the town. And as a reminder, on that Monday, March 16th, we moved our half day to that day to get everybody home in case they are anticipating some pretty significant traffic in town that day. So everybody just be prepared for that. But it looks like it's going to be fun. A fun weekend, week leading up and weekend all around. So. We also, in the last week or so, sent out preschool and kindergarten registration. This is for new registrations for preschool and kindergarten. Any of our current preschool students, whether they're staying in preschool or going on to kindergarten, will do so through our returning student registration. But that's another exciting thing. If folks out there know of families that have children who are of age, please have them register. The sooner we know who's coming, the better prepared we are to receive them. The next item, as we do each year, is approval of school choice for 26-27. Per Massachusetts general law, you are required to vote on the continuance of school choice. School choice, as you know, has been an important aspect of our school budget for quite some time. We enjoy the wonderful students that come to us through the school choice program. It is my recommendation that we continue. It will be later this spring that we'll take a good look at enrollment. We like to wait a bit as much as we can, and at that time you will vote on the number of students to be entered into that. At this time, it's just voting to determine if this will continue in the Auburn Public Schools or not.
Great. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to continue the school choice program in Auburn Public Schools at Auburn High School and Auburn Middle School for the 2026-2027 school year, with the actual number of open school choice slots to be determined in March after reviewing demographic data more closely.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh.
Thank you. As we discussed last school year, you'll know that we did do a cell phone policy survey at the beginning of this year. We had discussed doing it 3 times. My feeling is I think we'll send it out again right after the February break. We will try and coordinate with the high school and middle school so that students do it during the school day, so we get as many responses as we can. It will be the same survey that was sent out so that we have some comparable data. By all accounts, things are going well, particularly at the high school, which I think was the biggest area of concern for that. And maybe Piper can lend some 2 cents in on that. But I think there was a big concern. It was going to be a very heavy burden on the office. Obviously, each day there might be 1 or 2, but it's not anything that's overwhelming or overburdensome for anyone to manage. So in large part, I think it's gone well, but I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
I think it has gone well. I'm not gonna lie. Obviously, there have been many. I don't know, but there have been complaints. I think that my understanding, from my perspective, is I think kids are okay with like not having it in class, but I think where people are upset are obviously not being able to have like AirPods, headphones, or whatever. And not being able to use our devices during lunch and activity.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where most people are generally like upset with this whole cell phone policy. But I think also part of it is the enforcing, because I know that we talked a lot. During our committees, we talked a lot about the enforcement of the new policy, and I have come to understand that there are some teachers are actually very good about it, and I respect their decisions, even though, the kid might not. But some teachers, like before, if they see a phone, they don't do anything about it. And sometimes a teacher will send a student to the office. And I know that one of my friends was telling me that sometimes the teacher will call the office to confirm that the student brought their phone or AirPods or whatever in. And sometimes they don't. So sometimes a student could be sent to the office to drop off his or her devices or whatever, but actually still have it on them. So I think that's also like another issue.
And I think that's good information. And I think this was our pilot year to kind of figure those things out, right? So certainly that's something that I can share with Mr. DeLongchamp and we can talk about. But I'll be curious to see what we get for feedback from the students. What I know is that we've had feedback from the librarian that there are a lot more kids reading sometimes at the lunch block, asking to come and take out books. Seemingly lunch is a lot louder than it ever was previously, which means students are actually speaking to one another. That's a good thing. So we'll see where it goes. I will tell you, as far as the state level, I don't have a recent update. I had heard that the Senate was the House was trying to move it forward, but that they were stalling a little bit. So I don't know if we'll ever actually get legislation, which I think we were all anticipating. Time will tell on that. But anyway, we will have the results once I have those in. I like to give a shorter timeline for these things. So in another couple meetings, perhaps I'll have that information to share with the committee on what folks are saying.
Piper, thank you for your info.
Yes.
Always good to have someone
Yes.
on the ground. All right. Postponement.
So this is an interesting one. So NEASC actually reached out to us and said, would you like to postpone? If you do, we'll probably approve it. So I think they try and group the schools that they visit, right? So that they can make more efficient use of the staff that does the visit. And so in our case, I think they wanted to push us off to make it more convenient for them. But it was a very I chuckled when I read it because it was kind of like, well, if you want to, we'll say okay. And I was like, well, okay, but you're really asking us to do this is what you're asking. Just ask, So we are postponing the next visit for a year. So that was all. Just wanted the committee to know that will be delayed. And the next item, I think, is for Ms. Rayfield.
Yes. So Ms. Parker and I met on January 24th. It was a very productive meeting. I'm going to skip to the back page. So what we discussed was that starting FY27, we would begin to review the policies on a 6-year basis. Obviously, we put down there that they may be reviewed as needed, keeping an eye on MASC, which actually brings policies forward, DESE, MASC, the superintendent, and the school committee, and any other relevant stakeholders. We felt like, for example, like the policies that Ms. Stanek brought forward, like those might need to be revised based on new information. So what we tried to divvy them up as fairly as possible so that we're not reviewing like 100 policies one year and 5 the next. So year 1, which we're working through right now, is A, E, F, H, and L. Then year 2, B, year 3, C and D, year 4, G, year 5, I, and then year 6, J and K. And the reason why we split it up that way is to try to keep about 40 policies per year to review. And what our goal is to try to get through as many policies this year so that we then have kind of like a rolling. So then that brings you to the chart. We got through policy group A and then all the way through F, H, and L as well. So what I did is I put down the policy, the date reviewed, and the recommendation. So AA was no change. BB, we reviewed it because it is in connection with AA. BBA was reviewed. There was no change because it was also reviewed due to its connection to AA. AB reviewed, no change. And then we have a couple suggestions. So AC was reviewed in 2018. We re-reviewed it January 24th. It was recommended that we update to MASC. Our policy is largely aligned in intent with the MASC AC policy, but it is outdated and incomplete compared to the current MASC master version. And I put where the gaps are. So protected class coverage, required roles and procedures, modern statutory references, and clarity of complaint and enforcement process. And it does not reflect the updates post 2018. So we recommend that we update to the MASC policy. And then if you go on to ADA, there was only like 5 policies that we really felt like needed to be updated. ADA was reviewed on 124, and we recommend to update to MASC. And the changes were some expanded.
Is that ACA?
ACA, sorry, yeah.
ACA.
It's been a long day. I'm starting to go a little like. The protected classes to include sexual orientation and gender identity consistent with current Title IX and MASC guidance. We need to clarify coverage and procedures by applying non-discrimination to all programs and employment and clearly referencing grievance pathways. Strengthen protections and notice with explicit anti-retaliation language and clear identification of Title IX rights and coordinators, and modernize and align the language to reflect the current laws. So again, just to bring it up to speed, ACAB was last reviewed in 2020. And again, we reviewed and recommend to update to MASC because there was a policy update in January 2025 following some federal court rulings affecting Title IX, clarified jurisdiction language to more precisely mirror Title IX standards like school program or activity, U.S.-based actual notice, and modernize some of the regulatory references to avoid locking us into an outdated 2020 policy. And then also retain some of the strong existing provisions like mandatory reporting, anti-retaliation, supportive measures, due process. So some of those were kind of overlapping each other. And so this just MASC has done a really good job of separating them out so there's no confusion as to wait, what happens here if there's a sexual harassment? I was actually in 2 different policies, so that clears it up. ACE was last reviewed in 2017. We reviewed it on the 24th. Recommendation is to update the MASC. There is no major changes, just presentation clarity and accessibility. ADDA was last reviewed in 2014, again reviewed January 24th. No substantive changes, just wording differences. And so I forget which one it was, but one of them had like he, she instead of they, them. So they were saying like when he, she comes. So we just figured that was like a better wording. ADF reviewed. We believe this policy was recently reviewed and we asked for some clarification. And then we asked that we just update the review date. We believe it was reviewed last year, the year before. So we just would like an update on that. There were no changes. FB, there was no change, but we recommend reviewing it when and if we need a new school building. Because there's no reason to update it for any purpose now, but if in the near future we foresee that we are going to need a new school building, we think that we should look at it prior to that. FFA, which is the big one, I'll come back to that. HB, we asked that, Dr. Chamberlain, that you bring that to legal to see if the MASC update or our policy is a better fit for the district. That had a lot of legal language in it, and we did not feel comfortable handling that one. And lastly, HF, it was recommended to update to MASC with more inclusive language. And LBC also update to MASC. So our recommendations, and going back to, I'll go back to FFA in a minute. Policies AC, ACA, ACAB, ACE, we recommend that we change to MASC policy with a motion in the meeting, and we can save that until next meeting if people would like to review it. FFA, we recommend a first read. And policy HB, we think should go to legal. FFA is about memorials.
Before we get to FFA, do you think maybe for the next meeting we can have the old and the new, like with the revisions with the red? I just would feel more comfortable.
I can prepare that for you guys. Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, I can prepare that for you guys.
Thank you.
And then, so FFA is about school memorials, and we do not have this policy. It basically says that we recognize the death of a student, member of staff, or a prominent community member is deeply felt by the school community. And we basically that with school sites should like not serve as memorials. And then permanent memorials within schools should be limited in form to like perpetual awards or scholarships. So Steph and I kind of talked about whether or not we should leave that up to school committee approval. So I did not write anything up because I figured we'd leave that for next meeting as a first read. But the concern that was brought up was if we leave it as is, then it would say going forward, no permanent memorials in the schools. It's very strict here. It says permanent memorials within schools shall be limited in form to perpetual awards or scholarships. Any permanent memorials in existence before this policy can only be removed with our vote. So we would leave it as is. So we talked about whether or not we should add in like with school committee approval, we can put in a permanent memorial, but then where do you draw the line? So if someone brings it forward and says, we want to put up a memorial for Joe Smith, and the school committee votes no, but then a month later they come in and say, we want to put up a memorial for Joanne Smith, and the school committee says yes, where do we fall there? So
I will tell you there are many schools that have struggled with this.
Yeah.
I'm struggling a lot with this. Although I can see the where it could become a problem. I know it hasn't been a problem in Auburn, and I feel like putting the hammer down on memorials is not necessarily the best idea.
It's not, we have nothing in there now, so we wouldn't be, there's nothing coming up. It's not like we've gotten wind of anything. It's just more like, should we have this in place? And there's a very fine line between like, do I want to walk in? I mean, do I want to walk into my school building every day and see a big picture of like a memorial for someone, or is it something that they can do? Like we had many years ago, I know I wasn't in my building, but a colleague told me that a student had passed and they decorated the student's desk. At the end of the year, it went away. And that was a way of like closure for the students. It is problematic. There's like, it's not like we've gotten wind. We just, as we're going through the policy notices, it didn't exist. So we brought it up to kind of discuss and see if we feel we should have this in our policy, because there's nothing. So what would happen if someone wants to put up a memorial? Do they just go to the principal? Does the principal say? There's no policy at all. So would we even have control over something? And the answer is not right now.
Do we need control? I guess is my question.
I don't know. That's why I brought it. Steph and I did not feel comfortable, like, even handling this. We just kind of talked about, like, what could happen.
I would just share on the flip side, I know at Babe Path, and I only know this because my sister had a memorial there. My sister passed, was a teacher. They had a number of deaths at Babe Path. This is going back 30 years. My sister died 32 years ago. To the point that the outside of the school started to resemble a memorial. There were so many of them in different places. And it became uncomfortable for some people. So they actually created one statue with people's names and took all of the random ones out, because there was a resemblance to a cemetery, quite frankly. There were a lot of granite stones. And at the time, the people just felt like the school wasn't the place for that. And I'm not saying that's happening here. I'm not trying to say that. There are just a lot of things around this type of thing sometimes. So
I felt like we should bring it to the committee. We can do a first read and kind of look at it. I can bring forward the policy itself, and we can look at it and decide. I can bring it forward for a first read, or we can just say we don't want to do that. It just is not in our, it's not in our packet.
I wouldn't say completely get rid of it just because there's only 3 of us here tonight. You know, I like to be a little bit more hands-off in that, is this really something that I need to be a decision for? When I don't know who's in those schools, and I trust the people in the schools to make those decisions. But then again, there's only 3 of us here, so maybe a conversation when all of us are here.
And the one thing I would bring to you based on that is, like, who makes that decision in the schools? Because we don't have a policy on that. So I think if we want to put memorials as some kind of policy where it needs to go to the building principal, maybe, like, we need to figure something out, I think.
I wonder if it would be worthwhile just seeing what some other districts have versus MASC.
True.
It could be that, I suspect there are many districts that have wrestled with this very thing.
I can look into that as
There
well.
might be some good examples out there.
That's a good idea.
I know from what I've looked at so far, a lot of them are just really adopting the MASC policy.
Correct.
But I think that not having anything, or just saying, like, memorials are at the discretion of the school principal, like, just having something in there so that we have something. Because who's to say that someone can't go up to school tomorrow and put up a big memorial for something, and we have no control over that? Nor do we necessarily need control, but just, you know, who gets asked right now? You know,
I get it. Yeah. So if for next time we could just get the policies with the red.
Absolutely.
And thank you for your hard work on that.
Yeah. And I will give a 2 thumbs up to Steph too, who's not here tonight, but we were there for a few hours.
She is very detail oriented.
Yeah, no, it was great.
All right. On to business and financial. Am I correct in that?
Yes.
Right, so in your packet, I have provided you with a copy of the Bring Change to Mind grant awarded to Megan Berg at Auburn High School. This actually is a club, and this club is eligible for up to $500 annually that promotes mental health awareness, reduces stigma, and fosters a positive school climate. The club and grant require your acceptance. So this is something that has been happening, and this is with, I want to say, and forgive me if I'm pretty sure it is the actress Glenn Close and her grant that they can do this, and it does have all of, like, the terms of it, and they're doing it during lunch block, where if they see somebody who's sitting by themselves and sometimes they have some different activities and things to pass out to people. It has actually been a very positive addition to Auburn High School, and Meg has kind of been doing it and not been official, but then was able to find this particular grant for this student activity club. So, yeah, it's great. It really is.
It's awesome. All right, I'll make a motion to, there's two motions, but the first one is motion for the club.
I'll make a motion to approve the addition of Bring Change to Mind Student Activity Club at Auburn High School.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I'll make a motion to accept the grant.
I'll make a motion to accept and approve the Bring Change to Mind grant award to Auburn High School.
And I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Let's vote.
Sorry.
Okay.
And next, I've provided you with a year-to-date budget report of the FY26 school year dated February 3rd, 2026 for your review. Answer any questions.
Any questions?
No.
All right.
And the last thing I have for you this evening is the school department warrant articles for the May 5th town meeting. The select board voted to open the warrant until February 23rd, 2026 for the May 5th, 2026 annual town meeting. I've provided you the proposed school department articles for that. And I just want to note that the article for the high school gymnasium health and recreational trust fund, we don't have that figure. I do receive that figure from the town. All of these articles are our standard articles each year.
Okay.
This would require a vote so that I can send that off to the town.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the school department warrant articles for May 5th, 2026 annual town meeting as presented by the business manager.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. And we do not need
We
executive
do not need
session.
executive session.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everyone.
Night.